Estate planning and elder law comes in a couple of different stages. Basically, we start with the estate plan itself. You're going to want to do your documents. The first document that you're probably going to want to have is, if I die, this is what I want to have happen. You can use a revocable living trust for that, or a will. In a lot of cases, we'll choose a will over a revocable living trust, even though it means probate. Probate is not that scary. But the bottom line is, if you just die and you end up over here, you do have the opportunity to create creditor protected trusts that kind of pop up after you've passed away. So that's maybe one of the first ways to do it, especially if there's a surviving spouse and they may need long-term care down the road or something like this. I would definitely make sure that you have a will that creates creditor protections over those inheritances after you die. If you don't just die, and we have some additional planning that we need to do, it kind of comes in here, the asset preservation plan. There's a couple of different things to be aware of. One, if you give away too much, you have to tell the IRS. We really don't worry about that too much because there's a lot of flexibility in how they calculate that. But then you might say, well, I'm going to transfer it to my kids or to the trust. But bottom line is, you're getting it out of your estate in order to protect it. If you're getting it out of your estate in order to protect it, we want to be careful of the 5-year look back for Medicaid. Medicaid is a long-term care program that you might decide to use over here. It's not your Medicare. Medicare is a very basic plan. Medicaid can kind of come to the aid or the rescue of Medicare and kind of help pay for long-term care costs at home, adult living facilities, adult family homes, nursing homes, and memory care units even. So if we're going to be worrying about this 5-year look back, the best thing you can do is start planning sooner, not later, okay? We get to about 85, and I'm told as an attorney, about half my clients that come in the door have a capacity issue. So if we're going to be doing transfers, I'd really like to have those transfers started or finished by the time we get to 80, 85, and we're not having to worry about that afterwards. You can transfer it to your kids. Kids are an okay sort of place to transfer your asset. Makes me a little nervous if they don't get along, if they have a spouse that we don't necessarily care for, if they're in a high-risk business, if their kids are going to be applying for college and it will affect their financial aid, divorce, bankruptcy, car wrecks with bad judgments. The longer the kids hold on to it, the odds of some sort of liability cropping up are bigger. If it's a very short amount of time, kids get along pretty well, very stable relationships, not a bad place to consider putting your assets. Another option is like a trust. Trusts are like buckets. So it's like, for instance, Denise's house. I put it into the bucket. Now it's Denise's trust house. There's different kinds of bucket. One's kind of a leaky kind of a bucket, and that's the revocable living trust. I'm not talking about that. The other one is in more like a steel bucket, an irrevocable trust. So I take my assets, I put it in the bucket, I shut the lid. It's not mine anymore, just like as if I had given it to my kids. It's not mine. I reach out to get my house. I can't get to my house because it's steel. I might have to rent my house now, which is okay, but it's not yours anymore. So that's another great place to put it. And as I mentioned in the beginning, you can create that steel bucket to pop up after you die too. And that's really good. Like I said, if you have a spouse that may be looking at long-term care needs, or maybe you have a child with a health issue or a capacity issue, or maybe we just don't like how the family dynamic is going and we want to preserve stuff in trust for them so it doesn't get commingled in their marriage. This is really helpful. It's also really helpful if we've got young children or something like that and we want to make sure that those assets are held onto for them. So those are a number of ways to start planning, but the bottom line is, if you are aging and you do intend to preserve your assets, the sooner you start, the better. The closer you get to long-term care, which can be very expensive, the harder it is to kind of get past our 5-year mark and have enough to retain to keep us safe while we're waiting for that 5 years to pass.